Hi there, it's Rob from Alpha Theta, and today I'm going to be taking you through our latest product from Chords, the Chord Cap. Its primary function is its ability to quickly and easily generate chord progressions and then very easily export those onto your DAW using our MIDI manager. Although the unit's primary function is to create and manage chord progressions, it has an extensive library of sounds that aren't exclusive to pianos and synths. We're now going to very quickly knock up a drum pattern on this unit. So first off, we're going to start by making sure we have selected a track. I've selected track 1 here. Once we've done that, we're going to move over to the Sounds tab. Once I've selected the Sounds tab, we can actually cycle through the different sound sets that we have available on the unit. If we go all the way to the right, it's where we'll find our drum sounds. So now that we've selected our sound, we can move on over to the pattern section and start sequencing our drums. I'm going to start by putting a kick drum on every single beat in the bar. Now that we have our kick down, we can add some more samples by holding down on the sample that we want, like this, and then adding them in to the sequence. So next, I'm going to add some hi-hats into the sequence, and this time I'm going to actually play them in live. So we can do that by pressing record and just playing them in. Notice that the unit actually quantizes those actions. So now that we have our drum pattern, let's start adding some more sounds and some more sequences to the composition. Let's select track 2 now and cycle through our sounds. Find a sound that we like, such as this one, and start laying it down in the composition. Now that I've selected something melodic, we'll want to start putting this into a key and a scale to make sure all of our musical elements are coherent. We can do this by pressing Shift, Key, and selecting the key that we want. Let's go for E, and we can then set the scale by pressing Shift and Scale, and we can set that to a Dorian scale. So next I want to hit play, record, and play this in live. There we have it, we have the bass line and the drums working together. So now that we have our bass line in there, next up we want to add some chords to the composition. So I'm going to click track 3. I've already found my sounds ready for this chord progression. And what I want to do is I want to extend the length of the pattern because it's automatically set to 4 bars from standard. So we'll click pattern and then we'll select the pattern that we want to use. We'll hit shift and then lengthen it by 1 4-bar. So we now have 8 bars altogether. I'm now going to hit play on this. And I'm going to play the chord progression in live. Now this is the basic Dorian scale in E minor. If we want to move around within this and create some different chord progressions, we need to go into the Chord Cruiser mode. So to do that, all we have to do is click the Cruiser mode, and once we select a chord, it will show and display here the options for the next chord following, so the progression of this chord. So we can listen and select what we want it to sound like. Once we've selected it, you'll notice all the buttons are flashing. We can then press that and load that chord in that spot. This means we can set up a sequence of chords in a linear format for ease of use. I've very quickly just selected a progression of 4 chords. We are now going to delete the previous pattern and put that into our composition. So we can delete the previous pattern by going back into patterns, holding copy and paste and clicking delete on the pattern. This means it is now clear and ready for me to play that chord progression in live. I can then hit shift, lengthen the pattern and go back to having an 8-bar sequence. So let's play this in. Now, I like the sound, but we want to change a bit of the amplitude because there is an attack on that sound. So we can do that by hitting Shift and Character, going down to the amp envelope and changing the attack to a lesser sound. So now that I've created my new chord sequence on the Chord Cruiser, I'll want to delete the previous sequence that I had before to make way for this one. So I can do that by selecting the pattern, copy and paste, pressing down on it and making that room for the sequence. Now that the slate is clean, I can now input my new and improved chord sequence into the composition. So now that we have inputted our chord sequence into the composition, we might want to add a little bit of spice to this, maybe some MIDI effects, some reverb or chorus. We can do reverb or chorus by selecting the track, looking at our 4 effects here, selecting reverb and adding some reverb to it. You can preview that. Add some more. We can also change the entire sequence into an arpeggiation by clicking ARP. Once we've selected ARP, we can hold down somewhere on this pad with our finger and preview the arpeggiation. Find somewhere that we like, we can hit hold and it will stay exactly where it is. Now that we've seen the ARP, we are also going to add a delay. I'm going to add this delay to another percussion instrument on a different track. Click hold, and that delay will stay there indefinitely. Now I'm going to go back to the chord progression now to add a ducker effect onto the chord progression. This works similar to a sidechain. Once again, we can hit hold. So, on the chord cart, you can actually apply automation to your composition also. We're going to go onto the chord progression and we are going to change the character of the sound by hitting Shift and Sound. We're going to listen back to it. So, we're going to select a low pass filter and have a listen to how we want the sound to sound overall. So I actually quite like the sound of the movement on the filter. What we can do on the chord cart is we can actually record the automation and movement of that filter sequence. We can do it by hitting record, moving our finger where we want it, letting go, and we instantly have our recorded automation in there. So we might find now that our drums are starting to sound a little bit static in the composition. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and take a look at them right now. We can focus more on that particular sound by pressing Shift and Mute, making sure all the other tracks are muted. Now that we just have the drums available, we can start to listen to what we might want to do with them. Next up, select Pattern, We can then copy and paste that pattern, so we have two variations of that same pattern. And on the second pattern, we could add a drum fill, for instance. So I'm going to do a drum fill that is just a simple snare roll at the end of the bar. I'm going to play this one in. Notice how that's happening every 4 bars. It's because the drum sequence is 2 copies of 2 4-bar sequences. Now that I've gone back to the previous pattern, we're going to hit Shift and Pattern Chain. All we have to do at this point is press the patterns in the sequence that we want them to play in. So 1 and 2. It will display the sequence just here. There we have the snare roll. Now that we've done that, we can go back and unmute the other tracks in the composition. So for those of you who are interested in the specifications of this unit, we are now going to go ahead and look at the back of it. So if you look here, we have a power button. We also have a USB-C input here for connecting to our MIDI manager and also using it for bus power or plug power. We also have a combi MIDI out and through, a MIDI in, 2 1/4-inch jack inputs, a 3.5 and our volume adjustment here. You also might notice that this unit is in fact battery powered. We can take a look at where our batteries are stored by doing that, closing it up, and we are ready to go whenever with this unit. So I've been Rob from Alpha Theta, and this has been the Chord Cat. If you're interested in purchasing this product, please feel free to come down to any of your local stores, Bop DJ Bristol, Leeds or Manchester, and ask for a demo. Thanks very much for watching.